the video from Beta 64 called Yoshi's Woolly World / Yarn Yoshi, where deep dives into the
As you'd expect, it all started when Tezuka saw their work on Kirby's Epic Yarn.
Previous recording.
No place like home. Watch the Guardians and...
I am go. This
big yarn phase throughout the 2010s. But of all those games, Yoshi's Woolly World is the one that stands out on its own, with its beautiful crochet art style. But that's not how it was originally going to look. Early footage and tons of unused test maps prove that the game went through several design changes throughout development. From flat 2D visuals to 3D walk into the background style levels to ultra realistic environments and everything in between. We're gonna see it all in this video, along with a fantastic look at the people behind.
And I don't remember how old I was.
So on this episode of Beta 64, we're gonna talk all about the development of Yoshi's Woolly.
I need to ask Google. I guess this you will never do. I guess you know. What is?
Residents on this island are known as the meat characters.
Why are we on it? Why is it on this direct? What the? Why are we on this? Okay, oh god. Gotta get charger. Okay, luckily we got this on. Got this on a charger. Okay. Oh god, I gotta get AIF mode. I was born in 2011. Yoshi was born in 2011, not myself. The actor of him was born in 2016. And that's all you ever know about him. Okay, well, back in character to Yoshi.
Woolly World. But first, a word from
Let's hope this doesn't die.
Every plate. And a
Let's hope this Chromebook
doesn't
die.
Delicious meals right to your door. I've been personally using every plate
by
to
the
learn
way,
how
this
to cook
Chromebook is
and
what I
review
use
the
for programming on R2D2.
Every plate was the affordable black
That mac and cheese looks good.
First code Yoshi 3rd, 2013 during Nintendo's Wii U Direct.
It was introduced in that Direct.
World. It was actually revealed under a different name, Yarn Yoshi.
It was.
This game was a big deal. Yarn Yoshi was going to be the first console game featuring Yoshi since Yoshi's Story,
probably would have been about like, I think it was like,
Plus,
I think I was like 4 to 5 years old when this game released.
He was one of the directors of
Oh my
Yoshi's
god, that
Island,
was like,
producer of Yoshi's Story.
that was like,
Tezuka literally invented
that was
Yoshi's
literally,
protocol.
nah,
He
that's
was
gonna be
the
like
perfect
11
person
years
for the
ago
job.
now.
It was also announced that Tezuka would be working alongside the development team behind
It's been
Kirby's
11
Epic
years
Yarn,
since I
Goodfield. But what would this new Yarn
was talking
Yoshi
about
game
Yoshi.
be about?
Everything from now
Well,
on is about
Yarn, of
Yoshi.
course,
in
just
this
like
video.
Kirby's Epic Yarn. But if you compare the
I
retail
was
build
born
of Yoshi's
in
Woolly World
2011.
and Kirby's Epic Yarn, they don't really look
By
all
the
that
way,
similar. Yoshi
so-
and his world have more of a 3D look.
I don't know where
Since he's in a
Purple Yoshi
crochet
or Orange
omni
Yoshi
uniform,
is.
rather than
I
just
don't
a
know where
couple
they
threads
are.
of yarn like Kirby's
I don't know where they
But
went.
that's not how it was originally going to be. Yarn Yoshi's revealed
They
in the
do have
Wii
a
U Direct
Amiibo
gave us
of
more
me,
than just the
Raspberry,
title. We also
and
got
Strawberry.
a brief look at the gameplay itself, and it looks very different
And
from
I
Yoshi's
need all
Woolly
of
World.
them.
Everything
I do
is
have
just so much
Raspberry, but he's
flatter,
not in the
with
best
an art
condition.
style more in
So
line
I
with
need
Kirby's Epic Yarn.
I need all
The
of
Shy
them.
Guys were also following
I
the same
need
trend,
all
only
of
being made out
them.
of small bits of yarn like their final form. But
By the
this is where
way,
things get
I'm pretty sure
very
that
interesting.
Super Mario Logan
Normally,
used to
when
use the
Yoshi eats a
Yoshi
Shy
and
Guy,
DS
the
Black
enemy gets
Yoshi
turned
plush
into
for
a yarn ball.
Black
But
Yoshi.
that is not how it worked in the game's early build. Instead, Yoshi eats the yarn and then adds it to himself, allowing him to become a 3D crochet plush. And that's not all. After the Direct shows off this gameplay footage, we also get treated to some screenshots that present us with new worlds. This one of a forest sunset shows off an entirely 3D background, a massive departure from the footage we saw earlier. It's almost as if the game was going to start out flat and then would get more and more three-dimensional as the game went on. That, or they were just kind of throwing anything at the wall to see what stuck. I mean, check this out.
How long is this video?
Here's Yoshi
38 minutes, and we're 4 minutes and 50 seconds.
running along
and-
cushions
okay.
on a real-world window.
So we're gonna be here for
Does
a
that mean
while.
this game would have taken place in the
But
real
gonna be
world?
probably the longest CGM
Maybe
Epic Gamer
at one point.
video of all
But
time.
according to an interview with Tezuka, this phase of development was simply one of trial and error. Do we make Yoshi and his environment out of strands of yarn, crocheted yarn, or maybe something else? It took many prototypes before they settled on the iconic stuffed yarn look for the final game. But that doesn't mean that everything shown off in this Direct was just a random choice. At this point, they had already settled on at least one idea, that Yoshi should transform.
They did
We
get
could
in the
even see
game.
a screenshot in the Direct of Mega Yoshi, which made it all the way into the final version.
It
And
did.
fun fact, those transformations were added into the game just as fun little breaks from normal gameplay.
I
Just
feel
little
like
surprises
they,
added in every once in a while.
Wonder if they
that
ever
let the
thought they
player
were gonna
fly
be an
around,
integral
dig in the
part of the
ground,
game.
and
We're
destroy
gonna be
anything in their
a
path.
part of it
This shouldn't be
every
surprising.
level of the
After
game.
all, we know just
I
how
don't
much
know if they
Tezuka
did,
loves adding
but-
surprises
but
to
I-
games he works
well, at least they
on.
didn't,
And that's especially
because
noticeable in one of his later titles, Super
only
Mario
played it
Bros.
like a couple
Wonder.
times.
Did you know I made a video all about the development of this game, complete with early
I'm
footage and
in
screenshots
Super
of scrapped
Mario
wonders?
Wonder.
It's true. I'll put a link in the description so you can
I'm
watch it
in
after the video.
Super Mario Wonder. Oh,
What are
oh
unconventional
yeah.
uses for business cards, you ask?
Also,
No one asked,
this
but we're going to
ad.
tell you anyways. For people that just
Why?
can't park, let them know.
So that was the entire announcement of Yarn Yoshi. And even though we got actual gameplay footage, which is awesome, there was still no logo reveal, no release window, nothing. People were okay with that though. They expected we'd get to see more of the game in just a few months at E3 2013.
They didn't.
Yarn Yoshi was nowhere to be found.
Called it.
Now we did get to see Yoshi's new island at the show, so at least Yoshi appeared in some capacity. But for IGN,
Honestly, I
it
don't
wasn't
like Yoshi's
enough.
new
They
island,
wanted to
but
know
it has a
why the
game.
yarn was missing. So when they interviewed
Is anyone
Tezuka
excited
about
for
Yoshi's new
Yoshi
island,
and the
they
Mysterious
decided to
Booklet?
ask about Yarn Yoshi's
Or is it
whereabouts
just
too,
me?
to which he replied that it
I
just
feel like it's
wasn't
gonna
ready
be
to
the best
show.
Yoshi
He
game
wasn't
yet.
able to say much
I also
more than
kinda
that,
wanna
but
talk
he
about
was
the
willing
Super
to
Mario
talk about
Galaxy
Good Feel
movie.
and how they began
And how
working
Blimp
together
Yoshi
to make
gonna
Yarn
be in the
Yoshi.
movie,
As
so
you'd expect, it all
wonder
started
if that's
when
gonna be
Tezuka
a
saw their
title
work on
to the
Kirby's
plot.
Epic Yarn. It was just such a beautiful looking game.
Thank
with an
God
art style
he
he
did
felt
not
would fit
had
perfectly with
a
Yoshi.
human voice.
After all, this
He just had his
crafted feel
usual,
has been a
like
part
he's
of the series since
voiced
the
by a
very
human,
beginning.
but like of
Yoshi's
course
Island
he
went
is.
for a
That's a good
hand-drawn
thing.
Look, and Yoshi's
But,
story had that pop-up
he's just
book
making it
aesthetic.
cute, like
With Yarn Yoshi, they would follow this trend by using
I
yarn.
used to do.
But
I still
that
do
being
it.
said, Tezuka didn't ask Goodfield to just make a sequel to Kirby's Epic Yarn.
I'm
but
really
this time
excited,
Yoshi.
honestly. Like,
Instead, the plan was to make a game that just so happened to also be
That was
made out of yarn
delayed.
fabric. And when I say made out of yarn and fabric, I don't mean that everything just needed to look like that.
I'm gonna bring this
made out of
Yoshi
this stuff.
out of
Cushions
character.
need to squish as
I
Yoshi
think that's
runs
the
over
last
them.
time I'm going
Walls
out of
need to be
character.
unraveled to reveal new
It's
areas.
hand.
It wasn't just about art style. The yarn was meant to add in new gameplay elements that weren't possible in previous games in the series.
Plush to
And
the
speaking
movie
of a
theater,
previous game,
when I go to
Kirby's
the
Epic
Bar
Yarn was
Galaxy
all
movie.
about appealing
Okay,
to
back
younger
in character.
players, as well as those who were here just to have a relaxing, fun time with Kirby. Because of that choice, while many people did find the game enjoyable, there was still a lot of people that didn't like its lack of any real challenge or consequences. But
I've
since
never
Yarn
played
Yoshi
it.
was intended from the beginning to just be a regular Yoshi game, things were going to be different. That does
Is anyone on the
question, though,
on
what
this channel
exactly
that's watching
is a
us right
Yoshi
now?
game?
Genuine
Well, it's
question.
a lot like Mario,
Do you guys
but according to
know
Tezuka, there is a
about the
major
book series
difference.
Humphrey?
Yoshi games
It's my
are
favorite
more
book
centered around
series.
exploration
Both
at your
Yoshi,
own pace.
Yoshi and
Once the team at
SMECI,
Goodfield understood that,
and
development
the
of Yarn
actor
Yoshi progressed smoothly without issue. In fact, development of the game went smoothly on multiple fronts. For instance, everyone was starting out with a clear goal in mind for what the visual of the games would look like. Because of that, the development team was able to stay on the same page, leading to an enjoyable brainstorming experience. But what exactly was that visual
Has
goal,
anyone
besides
ever
everything
seen
just being made
a
out of yarn?
listing
Well, the style that they were
of a
going
cheap,
for was to make things
like,
feel handmade.
Mario Party
In order to
5
accomplish
Mario
this, they
plush
actually
that was
handmade
actually
plushies
official
of
and wasn't
Yoshi
in
and
bad
other
condition.
characters, and modeled the game
Has
after
anybody
those.
ever seen
It
that?
took
Like in
a
2026
lot of effort
specifically,
and a
has
lot
anyone
of
saw
time to
that?
make, but it felt like a
I'm very
necessary
curious
step
to know
really
that.
achieve the
Since
look
there
that
is
they
a boot,
wanted.
so
I
like this
think
bootleg
it paid off
looking
very
Mario
well.
Party 5
But this
Mario
was all
plush
happening
that looks really
behind the
funny.
scenes. We didn't get to see Yarn
And
Yoshi
yeah, you
again
can put his
until
pants
E3
off
2014,
for some reason.
which means we were
Or
waiting
pants
roughly
down.
a year and a half
I don't
since
have
the game's
it,
initial
but
reveal
if you
to learn
go
more
to,
about it. So what
well,
did
like
they
there's
change
some
in that
shorts,
long stretch of time?
like there's a short
Well, pretty
and
much
some like
everything,
videos about it.
including the name.
I think there was.
Yoshi's new outing was no longer going to be called Yarn Yoshi.
Yoshi
Instead,
is
it was
now
going to
called
be called
Yoshi's Woolly
Yoshi's
World.
Woolly World. Oh, and would you look at that? The logo shown here during the E3 2014 Nintendo Direct
yeah,
is
that's
different from
that's
the
a
final
different
version.
looking logo.
Technically, every part of this
That
logo
button
was
got
changed
smaller
in some way.
than
Like there's
there-
this additional stitching around the
there's a-
logo. The yarn balls are positioned differently.
Oh my god.
The button size changed, and
Honestly,
I could
the
go on,
red
but
looks
it's
way
all
more
very
red
subtle.
in the final
So
one.
instead of comparing this logo for the next 10 minutes, let's compare the actual early trailer to
Oh my
the
god,
final
looks
game
muted.
and see what
Looks
differences
really
are in
muted.
the gameplay itself. It all starts out
Looks
with
like
level
they forgot to
1-1,
put the
also known
saturation
as
tool
Yarn Yoshi
in
Tape Shape.
Photoshop.
We've already got our first change.
I don't
to
even
the
use
start patch, which
Photoshop.
was originally made out of ribbons instead of these patches.
I wonder
And
why.
since we've already got
Probably
the
a
early
good
and final
decision because
versions
it
side
didn't
by
fit.
side, check out the
But it looks
colors.
kinda
To
funny,
me,
so I
they
like
appear
it.
more muted in the E3 2014 build.
I swear
Not
that
nearly
herd
as
looks
bright and
bigger than that.
colorful as the
That
final
font
game.
is different.
Walking
That
a bit
font
forward,
is
and
way
there's another
different.
change. The beads are a different color in this trailer. And let me tell
I
you,
swear,
that
those
is
looks
a
like
change that
2D
appears
images.
a
The
lot.
gold ones look
So
like
keep
2D
an eye out
images,
for
while the
it.
silver
But it's
ones
not
look
just the
like
beads
3D
themselves
models.
that change.
Those
The
looks
bead
like
counter has a different
PNGs.
icon too, which showcases
Okay,
three
obviously
different
that's a
bead colors
PNG.
instead
That
of
font is
just
way
red.
different.
And fun
This
fact,
look,
this early
that
icon
font.
is still in the final game, just unused. It can be found in the file pause_old.gfa, alongside some other early icons, like this one for the smiley flower and this one for the wonder wool. But while the bead icon is completely different from its final counterpart, the others just look to be flatter. And there's also one more very interesting early icon, but we'll get to that later on in the video. Instead, let's head back to the trailer and check out some more differences that are found throughout this early footage. First off, unlike the retail build, you are not going to find any message blocks to help you in your journey. They're not
well,
here,
that.
or
Oh.
here,
What?
or
Thank God they
even
did it.
though this section
I've
has
never
another
been
change.
Yoshi's
The wing cloud
Island.
appears to be missing, with this yarn basket taking its place.
Also,
But
I
where did
think
it go?
I do
Well, it
have
turns
a
out this
Shy
cloud
Guy
was
plush, but I
originally
don't know
placed
where it
in
is, so
this
that's why
area, right
in the
above
first
where it would
episode of
eventually
Yoshi's
end up.
Island,
Because this cloud doesn't give
of
you
Yoshi's
anything
Plush
special,
Island,
just some hearts,
there's no
it made
Shy
more sense
Guys.
to have it moved
There's
out
a
of the secret room
Paracupa
and onto the
instead.
main path, so that way the player could reasonably reheal after the first first section.
I'm not the
Speaking of
best
these
at
winged
editing.
clouds, towards the end of stage 1-1, you have to hit a few of them in order to grow flowers so you can reach the goal. And it's the same way in the trailer too. But there is a difference here. There's no arrow pointing to the hidden cloud. That was added into the final game because people playing the demo at E3 would often miss this. If they couldn't find it, they couldn't progress the stage. So the arrow made it easier to understand what to do and avoid potential frustration. What?
Get 4 times more recruiter views with links and premium AI features.
Not sponsored. Why have I said that twice?
Watching people play through your game and determining how to keep them from getting stuck is an incredibly important aspect to modern game development. And adding arrows to important hidden objects early in the game was just one change the developers made in order to reduce player confusion. The trailer also shows us a change in Stage 1-3, known as Sponge Cave Spelunking. In the final game, the spring ball over here is easily visible. This teaches you that you can remove Sponge on your own without relying on this chomp rock. But in the trailer, you were barely able to see it at all. It was there, but you'd have no idea unless you were just randomly throwing yarn balls all around. So you can see why they would want to change that. The secret area that spring ball leads you to is also a bit different, since it's missing the smiley flower that's normally up there. That means that not only was this place harder to find in the early build, but it also had less stuff in it too. But the same can't be said about the area underneath it. It's clear that there's a lot more sponge here than usual, and this is also a change that appears in various places throughout the early footage.
I wonder if it
like
looks
in this area,
white.
where Yoshi pushes a different colored
It
chomp
kinda
rock
looks
through some
white
extra sponge and extra
on my
enemies.
Chromebook.
Other than that,
But
Stage
maybe that's just
1-3
because
also
my
has
screen
an
is
extra
kinda
wing cloud
faded.
here in the trailer that got removed later on.
It's not
The
really,
mushroom
but
platforms
kinda,
here
I
swap
don't
colors
know, it
and have
kinda
different
looks like
looking
that to me.
stems. And these beads here, they have a hidden stamp in the final game, but are just
I wonder how
normal
many
beads in the trailer.
gigabytes or
Now, there
megabytes
is
it's gonna
one more
take out of my
stage that got
Chromebook.
showcased in the E3 2014 Direct.
14 minutes.
Stage 3-5, Fluffin' Puffin' Babysitting, which shows big and small changes. For a small change, there was originally more
If you
clouds in
want
this
a
early build
third
when compared to the final game. I have no
babysitter
idea why they
video,
removed
if you
them
want
from
a
the
third
background,
one, but
okay.
go with me.
And a little bit before that, we can also see that the
And
Wonder
I-
Wool ended up
maybe
becoming a
the-
smiley flower instead.
The
And
Yoshi's
speaking
Woolly
of
World
Wonder Wool,
amiibo
this part of the
plush.
trailer shows us a pretty fundamental
that
change
down
with
if
them.
you-
First off, it's a
that
different
and
color,
say,
orange
the
instead of white,
Babysitter
and then when
3.
Yoshi collects it, you can see that originally stages only had 3
Or just
Wonder Wools
put
to
in like
collect instead
put
of 5.
hashtag baby
So that means every stage we've
hashtag
seen here
Yarn
are
Yoshi
missing
in the
2 Wonder
comments.
Wools. For instance,
If you
this
want
yellow
that
wool in stage
video.
1-1 isn't in the trailer, and then there's
Why
another
am I
missing
asking
Wonder
you?
Wool
I
in
might,
Sponge Cave
I don't know if
Spelunking 2. But
I don't
here's the
know
thing.
if
This
I
footage
can
here
even have
is not
comments
from
on.
Nintendo's E3
I don't know how to get.
2014 Direct.
Does
No,
anybody
Nintendo
comment on my
also
videos?
uploaded a completely separate trailer to YouTube on the same day
I
as
genuinely
Direct.
don't know if
This
anyone
new trailer
comments on my
uses the
videos.
same
I
build
don't
of
think anyone's
Yoshi's
gonna
Woolly
do
World,
that. Okay,
but we
so
do
I
get to
guess
see some new
never
areas of
mind
familiar
that
stages
because nobody
that showcase
comments on
even
my
more
videos.
changes, like
What am I
different colored
talking
Wonder Wool
about?
with beads surrounding it in stage 1-3. Plus, there's a different color Shy Guy spawning on the flower in stage 1-1, and there's missing Wonder Wool in stage 3-5 that would normally spawn when hitting this winged cloud. But don't get it twisted. Sure, this second trailer is mostly just stages we've already seen, but it also gives us a first look at the boss battles. Specifically, the one with Bunsen the hot dog. And the changes start right away with this opening cutscene. See, in the final game, Kamek shows up to cause this normal pup to grow and become a giant hot dog, which understandably freaks out Yoshi. But in this early build of the game, Kamek is nowhere to be seen, and Bunsen's roar is what startles the Yoshis instead of Kamek's magic spell. The battle itself, though,
don't
is
have
pretty
my
much the
glasses
same
on right
gameplay-wise,
now,
with the
so
goal being to tie up Bunsen's mouth with
you
yarn
ain't gonna
when he
see my
turns red.
face for the rest
But
of
while
the
the final
video
game
here,
has Bunsen
but
holding
you've been
this great
seeing
color
Yoshi's
scheme after getting
face.
tied up,
You just
and
seen
then
my face a
slowly
couple
turning
of
red as he
times.
breaks out of the yarn, the early version has him turning back to red immediately instead. In Nintendo's E3 Direct, it was announced that Yoshi's Woolly World was going to be released in 2015. And that was it. Quite a large release window. But on their official E3 2014 website, it was a different story. There we got a slightly more narrowed down release window, with it being set to release the first half
That's
of
still
2015.
the original logo.
But before we leave 2014 for good, we should check out Yoshi Woolly World's E3 show floor demo. That's right, for the first time at E3 2014, attendees could play an actual demo of the game. Now, since it's based off the same build that we saw in the trailers earlier,
by the way, if you know how to do this
differences
like
also
screencasting
apply
thing
to
on
this
my
new
Chromebook,
footage. That being
it's
said,
because
there's still a lot more to
I did
look at
a
here
green screen
because we
class
can now
from
see
summer
3
school.
early courses in their entirety.
I don't know. I think
Now,
it was
as
for
you
like
guessed,
4th
these
grade.
3 early courses are the exact same ones from the trailer.
I ended
Shape, sponge case,
3rd
spelunking,
grade,
and fluffy puppet
and
babysitting.
I
But
wasn't in
before we
4th
dive
grade
in,
yet,
let's
but
start things off at the
s-
title screen, which
but
instead of
later
being an
that year I
overhead
did.
view of the final game's hub world, here at E3,
we did the
it's just a
screencasting
still
where I
image that's
played
been
like
blurred,
a
along
random
with a
game
very
on some
different looking
random
font. And it's
website.
not just the title screen that's simpler looking. The loading screen follows suit with a simple black screen instead of a nice fabric background. Once we load into Course 1, as I said, it is the same
but
as
I
the
kinda
trailer,
forgot
which
about
means that,
it,
yes, there
so
are
that's
still only
why-
3 Wonder Wools per stage.
And
you can see that on the
how
course
I make
results
my
screen, too.
thumbnails,
That is
it
not
wasn't
all you
like
can
this
see here.
fanciness
Pretty much
or any of
every
my
part
other
of this billboard is different in
like
some
gaming
way.
videos.
First off, your bead count is shown
So
on the
I
board
might
instead of
start
on the
doing
bottom
this
left
more.
of the screen.
It'll
The
probably
icon
look
for Yoshi
better.
is an actual drawing of him instead of a Yarn Yoshi patch. Your health isn't being shown on the results screen. The Smiley Flower and Wonder Wool originally had labels, and the
I don't
stamped
know how
patches are nowhere to be found. And to top it all off, there's an early course icon on the board too that looks very similar to the one that appears at the beginning of World 1 stages in the final version. After viewing your results, you get a nice thanks for playing screen that isn't nearly as detailed as the one in the final game. But that's just Course 1. What about Course 2? Well, the first thing you'll notice if we unmute the audio is that the song that plays in the beginning is completely different, with someone playing some fantastic acoustic guitar. The final game just has it playing the same song from stage 1-1, with the original track being moved over to the hub world, Craft Island. And speaking of acoustic guitar, it's about time that I introduce you to one of Yoshi Woolly World's composers, Tomoya Tomita, who had previously worked on composing the music for Kirby's Epic Yarn. Turns out he had originally planned to use a bunch of acoustic guitar in Epic Yarn's soundtrack, but ended up giving up on the idea, instead focusing on piano. So this time for Woolly World, he was going to give the instrument the spotlight he felt it deserved. To
And he
accomplish
did.
this, while he had played guitar for many years, he decided to get a refresher before writing the game's music.
He literally,
Lessons and even cutting his nails
he
differently
started to
help
take
while
care of
playing.
his nails.
But why all the effort? Well, it's because he loved country music, and that was exactly what he wanted to capture in Woolly
Well, I
World.
didn't know that.
Unfortunately, the song he wrote here for the beginning of Course 2 didn't make it into the
But
final
at least
stage.
some of his music
But
got
that's not
in.
the only change you're gonna find in this
So it was
course.
worth it.
Turns out there's an entire area missing from Course 2 in the E3 demo. After you
Oh,
go through
I
the
think I
first
know
pipe,
which
the
one it
final
is,
game
because
has you
my
enter
dad
a
told
room
me.
that's basically there just to teach
It's
you how to ground
it's
mount.
this one.
After that, you're gonna reach this next
The
area with a
tutorial
yarn basket.
one in
But the
between
E3 demo
the first
skips
part
that
of,
entire
like,
tutorial
I think it's third
and puts you
level,
immediately into
then-
the yarn basket room.
yeah.
As you can
Yeah,
tell,
I
a lot of
probably
changes made
would've-
after this E3 reveal were specifically done
Probably
to
a good
help
thing
the
to
player,
have the
teaching them
tutorial
gameplay
thing, but they
mechanics and
probably
trying to
could have
avoid
just
the
done a
being
tutorial
confused.
box.
Now, of course, just like in Course 1, the result screen of Course 2 is also different. Specifically,
Or I
look
guess
at that
Course
different
2 in a
style
demo.
icon. This one isn't even close to the final version, since the
World
developers ended up
1-3.
reusing the same background for all levels in a world. Now, moving on to Course 3, there really isn't anything new to see here, except you guessed it, the results screen, which features another early icon that's pretty similar to what you see in the retail build. And that...
I don't think I can show this. I may have to.
Now, as I said, Yoshi's Woolly World was planned to release in the first half of 2015. But the question on everyone's mind was, when is it actually coming out? Well, in January 2015, Nintendo announced the game's release date to be June 26th.
In Europe.
Okay, well, what about North America? Surely they'd be close to announcing that release date, right?
No.
And so we waited. And waited.
They waited for like.
It was now June. Months
They
had
waited.
passed with no
They
release
waited.
for this region.
They
It
waited.
wasn't until E3 2015 that we finally got one for October 16th, 2015. Just missing that first half of 2015 estimate.
So about
At
4
least there's a demo
months.
of the game at E3 2015. One that I myself actually played when I attended E3 that year. As you could probably guess,
From June.
there were little to no
So about
changes
4
in this
months
E3
away
version.
from the-
I mean, we're only weeks away
the
from
first
Woolly
half
World
of
release. Anything they could have possibly changed at this point would be extremely minor. Now, since we had already seen so much of the game last year, the Nintendo Direct for this E3 was less about the game and more about the adorable Yarn Yoshi amiibos. Emi Watanabe was the one who inadvertently made this happen. At the time, she was working in Nintendo's software and planning department and helped design Yoshi's Woolly World. She was a part of the team, but didn't do any programming or modeling, so when development really got going, she didn't have a whole lot of ways to help out directly. So she decided to help out in a different way, by making a real Yarn Yoshi for the development team to reference off of. Yep, she was one of the people that helped with that handmade look that I mentioned earlier. But it didn't just help with the handmade look. People were so impressed with these Yarn Yoshi plushies that a proposal was made to Nintendo to make plushie amiibos for the game. And the company agreed that it would be a fantastic idea. Even though Nintendo didn't have any experience making a toy out of wool, they were just gonna go for it. And it was a lot of hard work. Emi ended
And
up
it
making
became a
tons of
success.
prototypes for Yarn Yoshi to help produce the new plush amiibos. And when the team finally got to see a sample of the toy for the first time, it was a moving experience that made them feel that all this hard work was worthwhile. You know, speaking of amiibos, those were a huge part of the Woolly World experience. You could scan practically any
Mario
figure to unlock
amiibo.
exclusive patterns for your Yoshi,
I also have a
alongside
Luigi
the
amiibo.
designs you could unlock normally
I also
throughout the
mentioned
game.
a blue.
But where did this
blue
idea
Yoshi
of different
amiibo.
Yoshi
I
patterns
think it
come
was
from?
light blue.
Well, it all stemmed from the
Yoshi.
game's backgrounds.
Might
They were
be
all
dark
so
blue Yoshi,
varied,
though.
and because they were made out of yarn, the team was able to play around with their design in unique ways. That led the team to think, hey, why don't we play around with Yoshi's design too? While brainstorming, they came up with a ton of different patterns that they were hoping to narrow down to just a few different choices. But the team ended up being so divided on which one should stay and which should go. So in the end, they just decided to keep them all. Originally though, these designs were going to be a lot more than just funny little costumes. At first, the team considered giving each pattern a unique ability to go along with it. But they ran into a problem. They had way too many ideas for costumes and not nearly enough ideas for abilities. So, once again, instead of limiting the amount of patterns, they decided just to make them purely cosmetic and include over 100 designs in the final game. Alright, I think it's time that we check out what's gone unused in Yoshi's Woolly World. There is a lot of incredibly interesting stuff to look at. So without further ado, let's start with our first unused object, the coin. there are a couple of unused coins located inside a folder.
Those look
called
like
Test.
those
And
looks
they are
like
incredibly
that
similar
looks
to
like
the coins
gold
found
one looks
in
like a
Yoshi's
dragon
Island.
coin.
They even
That
have
looks
sound
like the
effects for
dragon
collecting
coins
the
from
red
Super
coins
Mario
that would have
World.
increased in pitch every time you collected one, assuming you were fast enough. And fun fact, the first one of these sounds actually did make it into the final game, but it serves a completely different function. Instead of being used when collecting a coin, it's used when Yoshi hops into a stage. But do you know what's even cooler than coins? Unused test maps left over in the game's files. This is what we've all been waiting for. There are a ton of unused maps just waiting to be explored, so let's get to it. Starting with a familiar one, Test UV Regulation X4. Now, the name isn't what should feel familiar. It's the layout of the stage, which is extremely similar to the footage of Yarn Yoshi, shown off during the Wii U Direct in 2013. Unfortunately though, a bunch of objects used in this map no longer exist, and were replaced with placeholder dummy blocks. But if you look past that, this map honestly feels like a real level, at least at the beginning. The further you go in though, the more chaotic
There's so many
gets,
dummy
and the more it
blocks
starts resembling a
because it's a
test
test
map
map.
rather than something planned for the final game. And
You want to file free? Hit it.
What the? No.
And
No
speaking of
ads in
test
this
map,
video.
We're going to be looking at an
There in
unused
this
level
video,
literally
and
called
also
Test Map
the,
004. It looks like something that could have
This
been
video is
included in
not
the final
sponsored.
game.
This
That is until you reach this
our
part.
video is
which stops
not
your progress
sponsored by
thanks to an
anything.
invisible
So if
wall
you see the
right
ads,
above you, making
those
you
are not
unable to reach
sponsoring
the
us.
rocky edge up there
The ad
to
in the
continue
video,
on.
the sponsorship,
Honestly, looking around,
and the
nothing
Beta
here
64
really
video, we're not sponsoring them.
feels like a test room. It's all too nice. And that's why I'm happy to introduce you to Test Morty. This is an unused blockout of an actual stage in the game, stage 2-4. And if you don't know what a blockout is, it's basically just a rough draft of a level that's made typically with simple, untextured shapes like blocks. That means that Test Morty is an incredibly early version of stage 2-4, and that means there have got to be quite a few differences to this level. For instance, there are a bunch of bombs around here, with the Shy Guy throwing even more, and they are just not here in the final version. And if we go through the left pipe, you'll notice that the platforms are in different positions. The paratrooper guarding the Wonder Wall was originally a normal Koopa Trooper guarding some beads.
Where are
and
you?
over on the left, you'll find that
Yoshi?
there were only 2 piranha
What?
plants instead of
Have
3,
you seen
and that
him
the wing
around?
cloud ended up being moved closer to them rather
No.
than being in the center of the
I don't
room.
know what
Further
you're
along,
talking
you would
about.
normally have to solve a small puzzle where you'd hit the yarn basket, get some big yarn balls, and blast
They
away
just
the
went under
blocks.
the bed.
But in this unused test map, there's no puzzle or any big yarn balls. In fact, there isn't even a way out of here. The problem is with that wing cloud up there. When you hit it, it spawns some beads and a dummy object. It's supposed to spawn a spring ball, so that way you can reach the pipe. But since it doesn't, we're not going to be getting any further here. Seems like most of these unused levels are practically impossible to finish. Take for instance YI Stage 101, which as the name suggests is a remake of Yoshi's Island Stage 1-1. Now it's not the nicest looking remake, it's very simplistic with some bright yellow ground and Shy Guys, and it's also missing a lot of important objects, like the growing flower that's literally required to progress. Thankfully, with Mellow Mode's wings, we can fly right to the end of the stage, which doesn't have a goal ring, so there's no way to complete it anyway. But believe it or not, YI Stage 101 isn't the only unused map that's a remake of another game. Check out Test Luigi U 1-1, which, yeah,
Luigi
is a remake of
U?
Stage 1-1 from New Super Luigi
New
U.
Super
It's
cross
honestly
out
so
Mario
cute how
Luigi
they attempted to bring
U.
this stage over. For instance, the Waddle Wings obviously aren't in Woolly World, so they made them Gusties instead. Unfortunately, though, any
New
other
Super
objects, like the
Luigi
flagpole at the
Bros
end of the
U.
stage, ended up becoming dummy objects. were probably some actual objects made for this unused map, but since they're long gone at this point, we're only going to get dummy placeholders. Now, if you're getting tired of all these block-out levels, have I got a treat for you. This is Map 001 Maruta Master, and it's one of the most complete unused levels in the game. Sure, there's still a lot of dummy objects, but look at all that detailed terrain. It's clear that there was a lot of effort put into this map, so it is so sad that our journey has to stop right here. As you can probably tell, Yoshi is supposed to walk into the background here.
Is there any debug mode though that can just get past that?
So we're gonna have to
wait a second,
move on.
if he didn't
But
mention it,
we're moving on to the
that would
best,
probably be like a
most
Tetra
interesting
video.
unused test map in Yoshi's Woolly World, and I think you'll agree with me once you see it. But before we get to that, remember how Yarn Yoshi was going to have stages that took place in the real world? This unused map, called Test Map 009 Shader Test 01, actually takes place in the real world. It all starts on this desk. And what's that over there? Why, it's Good Feels Soda. Isn't that
Good Feels Soda?
There's also a hyper-realistic penguin with a top hat hanging out in the background as you move along the top of the table. And that's it. That's the entire map. Based on the name, it was being used by the developers to test shaders that were made to help make the environment look less cartoony and more realistic. And it works very well. It's kind of unsettling.
Is that Lego?
Now, how on earth am I going to top that? Tons of unused maps crescendoing with an ultra-realistic scene from early in development. What could possibly be more interesting than that? Oh, you'll see. It all starts with these unused images. You know the stamps you get in the final game by collecting stamp patches? Well, these are early Miiverse stamps. And if you're wondering what the kanji translates to on this one, it literally says unused. They're even accompanied by this image of a swap note envelope called memo.tga that was drawn by one of the developers. Okay, but why do I bring this up? What makes this so interesting? Well, it all has to do with the stamp patches. Remember earlier in the video when I said there was one more unused icon, originally a part of an early pause screen? Well, I think now is the perfect time to show you what it is. It's an early version of the stamp patch that's literally just an image of a Mii's head. These were called Mii beads. And while we don't know exactly what they did, it does give us an idea of an early scrapped feature for the game. It's likely that Woolly World was going to have a lot more to do with Mii's. In the final game, Mii's only make an appearance if you have Miiverse posts turned on, and then they would appear in the hub world to show off posts from around the world. But thanks to these next unused images that were found in the files of Yoshi's Woolly World, we can see they were probably going to be much more integrated into the game itself. They would party with Yoshis, they would ride Yoshis, all while being made entirely out of yarn. And you'll notice from the 2D designs of the Yoshis that these images are from very early in development, back when it was still called Yarn Yoshi. Now, these do look less like gameplay screenshots and more like well-made concept art, so it is possible that these were just ideas on how to use Mii's that never actually got implemented. But the fact that this Mii bead exists alongside the beads icon from E3 2014 makes me feel like they went further with the idea than just making concept art for it. But be warned that this was all just speculation based on those unused images. And speaking of concept art, there are even more unused images like those in the final game. Take this one for example. It shows us a nice glimpse at a planned stage for Yarn Yoshi. And this unused image shows us that early Yoshi in even more detail. It looks like switching to plush form after eating a Shy Guy would have subtly increased Yoshi's size. Oh, and based on the text, it looks like the developers were using Autodesk Maya for modeling the Yoshis. Now, I don't know if this next unused image is from back when the game was called Yarn Yoshi, but what I do know is that it is an adorable image of two Shy Guys saying stage clear. But I saved the best for last. These final two unused images left over in the files of Yoshi's Woolly World kind of incredible, at least to me.
36 minutes.
These are actual screenshots of early development builds of the game. The first one, I wager, is very early in development due to the fact that the Lives icon looks like the 2D version of Yoshi. Now, the player model is in 3D, but it's possible the player just ate a Shy Guy or something before the screenshot was taken. The second unused screenshot appears to be from a later build of the game. Both Yoshi's icon and model look much closer to the final version, as he hops around in this bonus stage. Now, how do I know that that's a bonus stage? Well, it literally says so on the upper right corner. Stage ID-bonus map 003. The screenshot from before also had this label on screen, but it doesn't list the stage name. It just says model viewer, and directly underneath it shows how many seconds have elapsed since the start of the stage. And here's something really cool. This same debug label appears in another game too. And as I said before, I made a Beta 64 episode all about it. Yeah, it's Super Mario Bros. Wonder. The prototype footage shared by Nintendo shows the same debug label at the same position with the same font, just a different color and size. Now, we technically don't know if it's the same debug environment, but I just thought that it was a cool parallel, showing how interconnected all these Nintendo games are even 10 plus years later. So that was Yoshi's Woolly World, a wonderful game with a surprisingly smooth development. No major issues, no dramatic make or break moments. The developers were given plenty of time and space to experiment and try new things from beginning to end. If that hadn't happened, we probably would have gotten a lot simpler of a game, something more akin to Kirby's Epic Yarn. But instead, we got a fully
Or a
fleshed
bad
out
game
Yoshi
like
game
Sonic
with the
06.
adorable
We don't
Yarn
mention
Yoshi
that game
amiibo
here.
That shows just how passionate the team was to make sure that Yoshi's Woolly World was both
And I
fun to
own
look at
it.
and fun.
I actually own
I'd
the
say
game.
they did a great job.
Well, I own Sonic 06.
Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video.
I
If
don't
you did,
have
the video game history and cut content is exactly what you're
Yoshi's
looking
Woolly
for.
World.
You're in the right place. That's what Beta 64 is all about. I've got tons of videos for games new and old, and tons.
Okay, well that's the end of the video. This is a video from 2 months ago from the channel. We don't talk about our super serial. Thanks for watching. We're gonna be, I don't know when my next upload is. Probably next week. I know I haven't posted in like 9 days as I'm recording this. Yeah. Bye. Let me stop.